Hi. Okay, so let's try to do the book of Yeshayahu, Isaiah. I will try to do it as quickly as I can. I may finish it in one taping, and it may require two if I go beyond the 15 minutes. So we're in chapter 5, and I started explaining to you that this is a metaphor dealing with a vineyard, and the prophet is complaining. I had a vineyard and on a very fruitful hill. And I dug it and I cleared it and I took the stone and I planted and the choicest grapes and I built a tower there. I did everything I possibly could. And I was hoping to have wonderful, sweet grapes, because the sweeter the grapes, the better wine and more alcoholic wine it yields. But this didn't work. The grapes were not good. They were wild grapes. They were sour. It was more vinegar than it was wine. And now the people of Jerusalem, the people who live in Jerusalem, and men of Judah, you judge between me and my vineyard. What should I do with my vineyard that I haven't done already? So he's complaining and he says, let me tell you what I should do with the vineyard. I basically need to take off the hedges and let it get eaten up by whoever comes to eat it, because I'll never get decent wine out of it. And the analogy is that I will take off the border from Judah, and its enemies should be able to come in and conquer Judah. The vineyard of the Lord of hosts is the house of Israel, and the men of Judah, the plant of his delight, and he looks for justice. But behold, instead of justice, there is violence. Instead of righteousness, there is a cry. So the prophet is very frustrated that no matter what he had done with his vineyard, it didn't come to pass. So I'm almost back to where I'm supposed to be. I think it was in verse 9. Yes. Okay. And therefore, the Lord of hosts says to him, the truth, my house shall be so desolate. Namely, he's prophesying the destruction. Okay, so the house will be desolate. And therefore, my people will go into captivity. And that's the message of the prophet in this particular chapter. The Lord of hosts exalted through justice, and God the Holy One is sanctified through righteousness. It's through righteousness and justice that he is looking to get back to God's good graces rather than anything else. Woe unto them that call evil good and good evil, that change darkness into light and light into darkness. Namely, the people are lying, the people are dishonest. And I think I'll call that the chapter. In chapter 6, I spoke to you that this was going to be where Isaiah is ordained to be a prophet. So Uzziah, the king Uzziah, who died, and it's around 650, 700 BCE, and he sees an image of God in the Holy of Holies, the Lord sitting upon his throne and lifted up, and his train fills the temple, and the angels stand all around him. It's a huge vision, and the angels are calling out, Kadosh, 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 Adonai Tzvaot, holy, holy, holy is the Lord of hosts. The whole earth is full of his glory, and his house is filled with smoke. And how can I do this? Like, my lips are not clean. How can I be a prophet? How can I dwell in it? And then flew on to me one of the seraphim with glowing stones in his hand, and symbolically from the altar takes a stone and touches the prophet's lips. So he symbolically purifies his lips, and he hears God saying, who shall I send? Who will go for me? Who will be my prophet? And he says, here I am, send me. So this is unlike other prophets. Everybody is refusing to be a prophet, and this particular prophet is volunteering to step forward and make the heart of this people fat and make their ears heavy, shut their eyes, lest they seeing with their eyes and hearing with their ears and understanding with their heart return, and be healed. So that's the message of the prophet. Come back to God, otherwise, it's not going to be good. Remove the men far away in forsaken places in the midst of the land. We're going to chapter 11, where the prophet is speaking about a messianic era. And the messianic era, or the Messiah, is a shoot from the house of Jesse. So this is the house of David. David comes from the house of Yishai in Hebrew, Jesse in English. And a twig shall become a branch so that the family of David continues to rule. And the Spirit of the Lord should be upon him, spirit of wisdom, understanding, counsel, might, knowledge, and fear of the Lord. And what is he going to do? He's going to create righteousness, judge the poor, decide to with equity the meek of the land. He shall smite the land, and righteousness shall prevail, and the wolf shall dwell with the lamb, and the leopard shall lie down with the kid, and the calf and the young lion um, are playing together, and a little child should lead them. It's a completely unnatural environment that all the people, all the animals that were fighting are now getting along, and even a kid could lead them because they don't need expertise in the shepherd of these animals in the Messianic era. The cow and the bear shall feed, their young ones shall lie down together, and the lion shall eat straw like the ox. Instead of eating meat, it's all peace and peace in nature. And they shall not hurt or destroy the holy mountain, they should live together. And on that day it'll come to pass that the root of Yishai, Jesse, stand on the ensign of the people, and his resting place should be glorious. And this should be a sign to the nation, and of course all the nations will be able to come to Judah and to Jerusalem and to the holy temple. And there shall be a highway for the remnant of his people from Assyria. They'll all come home back to Israel. In chapter 35, we have references to the flourishing desert, which became very popular as of late because Israel is flourishing in the desert. So the wilderness and the parched land shall be glad, and the desert shall rejoice and the blossom as the rose. It shall blossom abundantly and rejoice, even with the joy of singing, and the glory of Lebanon shall be given unto it. Excellency of the Carmel and the Sharon, all the districts of Israel are flourishing, and the eyes of the blind will be opened, and the ears of the deaf will be opened. I went too far again. Yes. Um, so the ransomed will return to Zion and will have everlasting joy in the post destruction when they return to Zion and God accepts them. And here in chapter 40, now we begin the after the destruction. Comfort ye, my people, says the Lord. Bid Jerusalem take heart and proclaim unto her that her time of service is accomplished, namely, it's time to return. Listen to one who calls, clear the wilderness, the way of the Lord, make plain in the desert and a highway for your God. Again, a plain in the desert, the grass withers, the flower fades, the word of God shall stand forever. So once they return, God will bring them back to the tallest mountains in Zion and get you up into the high mountain, um, and tell good tidings to Jerusalem, good news to Jerusalem. Lift your voice with strength, lift it up, and don't be afraid. Say to the cities of Judah, behold your God. Hine Elohechem, here is your God. I think that's all I was going to do from that chapter. And who could you compare me to? You can't compare me to anyone. You could only say, Holy One, which is God. Lift your eyes high and see who has created everything in the world. God created the world and brings forth numbers and hosts and calls them by the name and greatness of his mind. He is strong in power, and not one fails. The end of it, he gives power to the weak, and to him that has no might, he increases his strength. Even the youth shall become weak and give up, and the young men shall utterly fall. But those who have trust in God will renew their strength, and they should bring their wings up to eagles. They shall run and not be tired. They shall walk, etc. And I think this is the last or the second last chapter. Okay. Yet you hear, O Jacob, my servant, and Israel, whom I have chosen. Listen to me now. This is what God says, the God that created you from nothing. Don't fear, Israel, don't fear. I will bring water to the thirsty, streams to the dry ground. Again, the messianic prophecy. My spirit upon the seeds and blessing upon your offsprings, and everything is going to grow, and there is just flourishing in nature, and use the surname of God by the name of Israel. So said the Lord, the King of Israel and his Redeemer, the Lord of hosts, I am the first, I am the last, and there's no other God other than I. And who, as I, can proclaim, let me declare it and set it in order for me, since I appointed the ancient people, and the things are coming shall come to pass. Let them declare, don't be afraid, and declare it that your God is coming and you will be a witness to it. So basically the return to Zion, and the return of God to his people. So God is kind of giving up on his anger of the Jewish people. And I think with that, I will stop.
I can learn to understand you much better if I can get familiar with the way you talk. I need